Whether on-premise, hybrid, or in the cloud, RCS gives broadcasters the tools and support to create, schedule, manage, and deliver content with confidence. RCS is the trusted leader for audio professionals. Dear listener, welcome to our Monday meeting. My goodness, have we got a lot to talk to you about today. Showbiz, I was enjoying a very quiet Sunday yesterday. All was at peace in the world, and all of a sudden my phone lit up with all of this crazy nonsense that Kyle was spitting out about the new KIIS breakfast show in Sydney.
Well, hi, Wadio. First and foremost, it's so good to hear you reading our client ads. Again, back on the microphone. It's been a long time since you've been done any live radio as such. I remember the last time I heard you on the wireless was back when you were doing breakfast in Young.
Oh my
Remember
God.
those days? You
know what? I'm going to turn your fader down, if that's all right. No shitting on me. We want to talk about the real issues this week.
I mean, why get the professional to read it when Wade's available?
All right. Okay, all right. You're done. I'm taking over this episode.
Let's move on. Yeah, I did see it come through. I was watching bits and pieces on Kyle's feed. What I was more impressed is that he was testing the gear on a Sunday, which was great. And it was a fun thing for him to do. But he was using one of our videos to test his video link. And so all day on Sunday for that 4 hours, he kept playing the clip of me and Henry Brett's over and over and over again. And every time he played it, one of my friends would text me and say, "You're back on Kyle's show again?"
Stefanovic come on. He came on the Quarter Hour podcast, which is another behind-the-scenes radio podcast doing pretty well. And they asked him, what's it like being interviewed by me? And apparently he said some very nice things. Yeah, that guy, what was that dude that came in? What was his name? Henry.
I can tell you, though, from past experience, it's not always a great thing to appear on Kyle's show. Let me just say that from my experience on a previous podcast. Yeah, so basically what Kyle was talking about was Dr. Chris Brown and Amy Gerard, he says, assigned to do KIIS Sydney breakfast. We're going to get into that in a minute because I want to kind of get a sense from you if you think that's a good pairing or not, or what other options there are. But a lot happened over the weekend, not only from Kyle, but Bella had her first Kyle cast. She did an amazing job with Brooklyn, don't you think?
What a scoop getting Brooklyn Ross on. That's the story we all wanted to hear. And it was really nice for fans of Kyle to all be able to go to one place with the Kyle cast. Great idea. It sounded fantastic. I could see them all online just swapping stories and, high-fiving each other. But Brooklyn gave us some really key intel that we didn't know before. The fact that he hadn't signed to Kyle until the last minute, the fact that he was waiting for Kyle to invite him over, the fact that he had to bait Kyle with a bogus announcement on the radio, hoping Kyle would hear him and offer him a job. I was stunned and shocked. Were you?
I was actually. Yeah, so there's a lot of fun and games that go on in that planet of Kyle. In fact, and that's kind of what I want to put on the table for our meeting today is about Planet Kyle, because it is a different world. I think the thing that I've learnt about talking about Kyle through the Kyle and Jackie O days on Game Changers and then on this pod is that it almost is its own kind of ecosystem. So Kyle says something and it has these ripple effects. People write news stories about it, or people change jobs or their careers change. The fans of Kyle are absolute devotees. Like, you cannot say a bad word about Kyle in the same way that I think with Trump fans, they find it hard to believe anything bad Trump ever does. And I think that's a true strength of Kyle's, that he can actually cultivate, I use that word carefully, cultivate a community of people who love him and will do anything for him and won't hear a word against him. And I actually think that that's a good thing now that he's behind a paywall, because those people can pay for the privilege, and everyone else who doesn't like him for whatever reason, they don't have to worry about him. They can just go about their day, whereas Kyle has got his own, planet or ecosystem, whatever you want to call it. And back here on planet Earth, I actually think that the Kyle show, as good as it is not going to make a big difference at all to radio ratings.
Oh, I disagree. He's going to take them all with him. He has won the week. Let me run you through a couple of scenarios. Who dominated the press this week? I didn't see any other radio show in any other press. And I looked, maybe I missed one or two. He was in the headlines every single day. No one else got a mention. He has done what traditional radio hasn't done in a very long time. He's created content that evokes emotion. He has created a family. He's made people feel welcome. He's made people like me have a bit of FOMO. I definitely, when things were going down and everyone's texting me saying, "You've seen what Kyle's up to," I'm like, I'm paying that. I mean, I didn't. I'm just going to use your account if I'm being honest. I didn't. I wanted to pay that $99 because I had FOMO. I had fear of missing out. He lets people be themselves. They refer to themselves as the freaks and the geeks. They wear that as a badge of honor. He is the church for those that don't go to church, and he makes people feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves. They absolutely love it. No other show on Australian radio at the moment can boast the passion that the listeners of Kyle's show has. Tell me I'm wrong with that.
No, you're absolutely right with that. But my point is, he's not on radio. He's on an app now, and he's a streaming service. And that's the big thing I think people haven't factored in, because everyone's been trying to work out, how does he make money? How many subscribers does he need? But the careful thing you've got to analyze here is he could be selling gym memberships, right? So everyone pays the money because they want to get fit in January and doesn't go back to the gym ever or, 3 times a year. And he could sell many subscribers, but doesn't mean they're all listening every day. And as an example, I listened to day one, I paid for it, and I really liked it. I thought he did a good job. I didn't go back from Tuesday to Friday. Now, that's not an anti-Kyle thing. It's just that the existing needs I have in terms of what I want from radio in the morning are still being served really well by radio stations. And I think the thing that will become the next round of this story is not the fact that he easily gets attention, because that's absolutely true. He does get attention, but so does Sunrise and so does Today. And they don't rate as highly as the primetime programs at night. So what happens is the amount of column inches they have and the attention they seek doesn't necessarily translate into ratings. And if I was to say to you, I know exactly how many people by streams that Kyle took away from one of the radio networks in Sydney last week, in his first week, how many people do you think went to Kyle and got off radio streaming?
See, I wouldn't know what to compare it to. Apples to apples, oranges to apples, bananas to whatever. I don't know the raw numbers. What I will say is that it's going to be a habit changer. So I know friends that have changed their daily habit to watch Kyle on their lounge room TVs. Now, we're not all in a position to do that, because at the end of the day, I always like the phrase, I've got a life, I've got a wife, I've got stuff to do. So it'll even out in the wash. And so when you're saying, will he take away listeners? No, I don't think he will, because in the car, I'm still going to be listening to what I've got in the car when I'm driving around and doing my normal habits. But he will create a new habit on top of what we're already doing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, but he's not going to take anything away from radio. And I think that's been the big headline, is will people leave radio and go and listen to him? People will still listen to him and his fans will love him, but I reckon they've already signed up. I don't see that as growing just demonstrably over the next sort of 6 months. I think the radio will stand up, because I know from one radio network that has 2 stations in Sydney, last week when Kyle's first week was on, they had 10 less streams. Not 10,000, 10. 10 less streams than the week before. So Kyle might have had heaps of people streaming, but they weren't listeners of this network. Across 2 stations, 10 people less streamed that. Now, if it's not going to happen in the first week for Kyle, it may not happen for a long period of time. And he can super serve those freaks and geeks. They love him, and that's great. And you guys go and enjoy yourselves. But it's not going to change the radio ratings, I don't think, overall.
No, I agree with you on that. And I think people will have it as an add-on. I've got Netflix, I've got Prime. I'm going to sign back up to Apple to watch the current season of Ted Lasso. You're allowed to like and listen to more than one show. And just because we wanted to hear a show in Sydney doesn't mean we didn't listen to Kyle at the same time. I agree. Radio is not going to die as a result of this, but it makes us all stronger. It makes us better. He's putting radio front and center. We're back in the headlines. And for that, I think he's done a great job.
Okay, well, he's an attention seeker. Now, this headline from yesterday around Dr. Chris Brown and Amy Gerard. So when you first heard it in your mind, did you go, oh, I can hear that working, or you weren't sure?
Yeah, jury's out. A couple of things. I don't know Amy Gerard at all. I've heard a couple of things on socials. I haven't heard her do the show. I don't know her background. I don't even know what she's famous for. What I did know was she was doing that show with Chris Page on a Saturday, and I'm a big Chris Page fan. Page is great. And so I thought anything that he does would be successful. I'm surprised they didn't put them on together. I thought that was the backup show. So to pair her with Mike E, I was surprised. What I did like was hearing Chris Brown. I like Dr. Chris. I've always liked Dr. Chris. He is fun, he's warm, he's energetic, he ticks a lot of boxes. So as you know, when putting shows together, and of course KIIS have to put 2 shows together, you've got one of 2 things. You either go for an existing show, and I'll give you some options there, or you start from scratch and you build it around one person. So existing shows, who's around? For Melbourne, I would absolutely have called Matt and Joe. I would have given Matt Tilley a call and put that show back on the map. It's one of Melbourne's favourite shows. It'd work well on KIIS. But the other show that gets mentioned every now and again is Will and Woody on Breakfast in Melbourne, their hometown. I'd be putting Will and Woody on breakfast, and I'd be moving Smallsy to Drive. National Drive, Drive with the Stars, the old Kyle and Jackie O model. So they're my options for Melbourne. For Sydney, on the other hand, you haven't got as many shows. We've burnt through a lot of shows. I do miss Dan and Maz. If Dan and Maz was still on air today, they'd probably be number one. But what they do in the UK, as you know, we love UK radio, is they find a really safe celebrity and they build a show around that person. So if I was to name you my top few, Dr. Chris is on that list, absolutely. A couple of years ago, I would have built a show around Julia Morris. In Melbourne, I'd be looking at Lavinia Nixon or Jules Lund. But you know what? Especially after last night's Logies, I'd be building KIIS around Robert Irwin. I think Robert Irwin's fantastic.
Yeah.
If Robert Irwin needs to be hosting the Olympic Games in umpteen years' time, the world loves Robert Irwin. He is awesome. He is, I just think he ticks a lot of boxes and he would be fun on radio. So you've got to build it around someone. Dr. Chris, I can see working. I like Dr. Chris. He ticks 70 boxes, but I'd be going Robert Irwin. That's my pick. What do you think?
Well, I think you can't judge Dr. Chris Brown and Amy Gerard till you've heard it. I mean, you can do it on names, but people have judged people on names before and you don't know till you hear it. Rove and Sam would be a famous example. You kind of go, well, can Rove do radio? Not really sure. Sam Frost was straight off the TV show. Oh, will that work? And the reality is only the people who are hiring will actually have heard the chemistry and see if it works. So we still don't know if Dr. Chris Brown and Amy Gerard are actually happening or not. And in Melbourne, I still think Fifi, Box and Jules Lund. Just keep an eye out for that one. That could be something.
What about Sonia Kruger as a roughie as well? I mean, I know they tried it years ago with Sonia and Todd and it didn't work. But Sonia, for me, has always been one of the most talented people around. And I'm surprised they didn't put her back on 2Day when they had the chance. I still think she's someone that could possibly work on radio. Any love?
Look, the hard thing in this guessing game is until you hear it, you don't know who's going to work. And I think that's the thing. And maybe they heard Dr. Chris Brown on Nova, the fill-ins for Chrissy Swan and thought he's got something. But hey, none of us will know till we hear it. We'll be back with more in just a sec. Great technology is only as powerful as the people using it. RCS Academy offers self-paced online training and certification across Zeta, G-Selector and Acquirer. So whether you're developing new skills, training your team or looking to get more from your RCS products, RCS Academy provides practical, industry-focused learning that you can complete at your own pace. To learn more, contact RCS today. All right, a couple of quick things to round us out. I want to hear what episodes you've got planned this week, Showbiz, because I know you've been very busy in that brainstorming lab of yours coming up with episode ideas. But first, I want to play you a piece of audio. Last week, Kieran Simpson, who is the executive producer of Carrie Tommy, was on air talking about his grandparents, and it turned into one of those moments you don't expect, but really drew a lot of engagement, particularly online.
I moved to Australia 14 years ago, and it's hard to keep in contact with your family, and your family get older. My granddad, I saw him last year, and he has Alzheimer's. And he doesn't remember me, which means I can't call him.
Oh, Kizzy.
I can't FaceTime him. He knows that I work in radio, and they smile every time that I get a new job, but it has to be explained to them in very slow terms. And so what I've done is I've written a letter, and I want to read the letter out on air.
Well, I'm already crying.
It'll mean a lot to me, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of people who are in a similar situation to me who aren't able to do things like this. Mm-hmm. And I just want you to know that when you move away from home, no matter where you are, it's hard. And sometimes you can go months and months without speaking to someone. I spoke to my granddad in person last year, and I was very lucky to. And I don't know if I will again because he doesn't remember me. So I've written him a letter. Hi, Granddad. I hope you're well. I'll try to keep this short, but I need you to hear this. I'm hoping that as you listen, it brings back the same magic it brings up for me. When I was 8, my world felt like it was falling apart. Mum and Dad were breaking up, and I was so little, I had all these overwhelming emotions in my head, and I didn't know how to carry them. I didn't know at the time, but I was completely lost. Right in the middle of that, you stepped in and changed my life. And I remember it like it was yesterday. You took me somewhere brand new. It's a place called Sinsel Bank. It's the home of Lincoln City Football Club. The funny thing is, I didn't even care about football then, but you took a punt on me. And Grandad, I can't tell you how unbelievably grateful I am that you did. You introduced me to nail-biting cold winter days sitting in the stands, trying to warm our hands on scalding gravy-flavoured drinks, getting hot chips and a pie and saying, "Don't tell Nana," because we would ruin our dinner. And that was our secret for years, our ritual pie and chips every Saturday. I remember our very first game together. It was September 26th, 1998. Lincoln played Fulham. It's a fixture we've laughed about ever since. So those two clubs have taken two entirely different paths. Fulham went straight up to the Premier League, and Lincoln, we're pretty shit. We got relegated, and we spent most of my childhood watching us lose. We lost that first game 2-1, but walking out of that stadium into the cold air, something inside me had changed. I was hooked. I was hooked on Lincoln City, and it mainly has meant that I'm hooked on heartbreak. But we showed up every single week. We'd walk up to the turnstiles, and you'd look at me and say, "Have you got your season ticket?" You knew full well I didn't, because you never let me take it home, because you know I'd lose it. But I realise now as an adult that you kept it safe because you were taking me to my safe place, away from all the stress of what was happening at home. And this weekend, for the first time in over 60 years, Lincoln are back in the second tier of English football, the Championship. And the football gods have a real sense of humour, because our first game back in the big time is against your boyhood team, Middlesbrough. So I wanted to read this today, and I wanted you to hear it before Saturday. Because when the whistle goes this weekend, I won't just be watching the game. I'll be thinking about the 8-year-old boy who desperately needed an anchor and the granddad who became one. I'll be watching, and for the first time in my life, I'll be cheering for both teams. As they say, up the imps, come on the borough, but mainly the imps. Kieran.
That is beautiful.
Beautiful message, and I don't think it's just me who can relate to the love of grandparents, and I really commend Kieran for doing that, but also Carrie and Tommy for giving it its moment and letting it breathe on air and not trying to be all radio with it. It was fantastic.
What it shows me is that you sometimes need to look a little deeper to the team and realise that just because you're the host doesn't mean you have to say everything. So trusting your team to have some content, and the fact that it made me feel something, that's Radio 101. Make me feel, I mean, the amount of times I've stayed in my car longer because I couldn't turn a brake off, or I've teared up listening to my favourite shows. That's why we do it, and they've nailed it. Well done.
Well done. Yeah, it was great. All right, so episodes are coming up this week. Now, you have got a couple that when I looked at the title, I thought, I don't know what you're going to do with this. Talk to me about the census one.
Iron Chef moment. We had a lot of response last week with the term coined by the lovely Triana Butler, Iron Chef Radio. We're doing it again, but we're doing it on the census. So if you cast your mind back just a couple of days ago, the whole country was talking about the census. Every radio station was covering it. So every radio station had the exact same ingredients. But this is where we find out who the true Iron Chefs of Australian radio are. How did they serve those ingredients up differently? Everyone from Christian O'Connell to the guys from Hot Tomato on the Gold Coast and in between. We've got audio from all the big shows and how they did it. Some were fantastic. Some played a straight bat. They all did something different. I was surprised at how different every station tackled it. We got parody songs. I've got a couple of parody songs to play you as well. We love a good parody, which is coming up on this week's pod.
All right, well, that sounds great. You know, I love a parody song, so I'm all up for that already. Hey, later in the week, I'm going to talk to James Cridlin. Now, he's done more than the back of the napkin maths. He's actually bought a whole stack of napkins, and he's got one of those boards you see in crime shows, you know, when they've got it on the whiteboard and they're trying to work out who the suspect is. He's done all the math on Kyle and whether Kyle can actually make money on this venture. I think his answers will surprise you. That's coming up later in the week.
Yeah, whiteboards are good, but you know they're really serious when it's a clear board. You know they have those clear boards on CSI Kyle, and they're writing on a clear board. I can't wait till he gets the clear board out and does the math on Kyle. Look out, Kyle.
Look out, Kyle. Another big week on the quarter hour coming up.